Hi everyone, this talk should help you to get into The War of the Worlds, the first alien invasion novel in English. The illustration you see here is a depiction of the aliens that Wells describes from an early edition of the novel. This novel was published in 1897. It was not the first treatment of the idea of alien life forms on other planets. That had been around for a long time, since the ancient Greeks, as a matter of fact. But it is the first alien invasion story, in other words, where the aliens come to Earth and are hostile. It, in its historical context, sort of falls in with other invasion stories that were popular at the time, particularly in Great Britain. The threat of being invaded by foreign powers was very much on the minds of those people, and of course that did eventually happen in World War II particularly. So it was a country that was interested to read about that, and there were fictional stories about being invaded by other countries, but Wells sort of worked his own variation on that trope by having the invaders be aliens from Mars. A couple of interesting things about the biology of the story. One thing that's peculiar about it is that the aliens actually feed by transfusion of human blood into their own bodies. This is, first of all, sort of an idea about how a race more advanced than ours might have sort of decayed into not being able to eat in a natural way and using this sort of surgical procedure to eat. So it's sort of a caution about what happens to you if you evolve into too technological of a species. Wells, in The Time Machine, which is not on our reading list, had been very explicitly interested in the idea of the human race sort of disintegrating into a helpless state. His aliens here are not helpless, but they've fallen far from a normal way of eating. The transfusion itself was a very new idea at the time of this novel in 1897, and a very disturbing idea to some people, the way that modern medical procedures like cloning or the use of stem cells are to people these days. Well, that cutting-edge technology more than 100 years ago was very disturbing to readers at that time. And interestingly enough, this book was published within a year of Dracula. In Dracula, of course, there's a vampire who feeds on human blood, but also, in order to save victims of the vampire, the author of that book, Bram Stoker, showed a doctor using transfusion from one human being to another. So it was a very weird and uncomfortable idea to people at the time that could be used in the context of a horror story. And here's Wells using it at the same time. So kind of an interesting moment in history when two very different works could use that same idea to get a reaction from readers. The conclusion of the novel, I won't quite give it away, and we'll let you enjoy it when you get to it. But just for a little context, it seemed to me that this ending dramatizes the idea that man may not be the center of the universe, that the way the aliens are ultimately defeated is not from human activity, not from human resourcefulness or human intelligence. And in that way, this is very much another book that sort of responds to the idea of evolution, which suggests that human beings may not be the most important thing in the world. That may not be why the world is here. And here's kind of another indication of it in the way the aliens are defeated at the end of The War of the Worlds.